U.S. military draft in 2025 will include women. So this is something that's been going on for a little bit now. As many of you know, a bill actually made it through the House recently that would automatically require that men between the ages of 18 and 26 are registered for the draft as soon as they turn 18. They would no longer go down to the post office and sign up for the selective service. No, they would be automatically registered because 100,000 Gen Zers every year that turn 18 are not registering anymore. And the levels of the military reserves are now 1/10 of what it was 50 years ago. So 50 years ago, we had like 700,000 people, over 700,000 people. Now it's like 70,000 people. So we do not have enough people to protect the country anymore. All branches of the military are struggling to recruit candidates. They are not meeting their quotas anymore. It's an extremely bad situation, and 77% of Gen Zers are not eligible to serve in the military because of substance abuse issues, mental health issues, or obesity. As a result of this, it's creating a lot of issues for national security. And on top of it, a federal judge a number of years ago found that the male only draft is unconstitutional. As a result of that, the matter was brought before the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court was then asked by the Biden administration to allow Congress to review the case because they were already looking into either adding a provision that would require women to serve in the military or be drafted into the military just like men, or get rid of the draft entirely. So we're not going to get rid of the draft. We can see that already. We're heading into WW3, and we don't have enough we don't have enough soldiers or just different people in various branches of the military to protect ourselves anymore. So we're in bad shape. So they're not getting rid of the draft. They're expanding the draft. There's a bill in the Senate, and the Senate bill would automatically require that women would have to also participate in the draft. So they would automatically be signed up for the draft in combination with that first bill from the House, which already passed, which would require that all men are automatically signed up for the draft. Now we're getting more news regarding this, and it's very, very interesting what we're seeing here. There's a lot of pushback happening, and there's a video by Gritty Soldier that we're going to be checking out, which further expands upon all of this. It is insane. There's a lot of people freaking out. There's a lot of women freaking out. As you can see, the feminists are essentially silent right now. They were basically, up, and they were basically like celebrating all of these things, and now they're quiet. They don't want to talk about this. They're not, they don't want women serving. It's hypocrisy. But we're gonna jump into some of this. We're gonna look at what's going on, and we're also going to check out the video. We're also going to check out the video from the Gritty Soldier, because this is very, very insane stuff. And I'm going to link his channel description in the video. By the way, guys, if you guys enjoy these videos, make sure to hit the like button. And if you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe down below. And of course, members for the channel do get new videos early. So if you'd like to learn more about that, click the join button down below this video. Let's jump right into it. So you guys can see here, Senate Democrats dodge whether to expand draft to women. And they're basically not talking about it. In the past, when this has occurred, the recommendation has been to draft women, and the Senate has, and before the bill has gone through, they've stripped out the provision. We are in an election year, so it's a very serious issue. The thing is that because it went to the Supreme Court already, and the Supreme Court has basically said, okay, we'll give you time to either get rid of the draft entirely or to draft women. And what's a reasonable amount of time? Well, the Supreme Court's going to will say, well, if we've given you 5 years and you haven't done it yet, then we're just going to rule that the male-only draft is unconstitutional. It was already ruled unconstitutional in federal court. We'll basically just rule that the male-only draft is unconstitutional. This is something that Congress does not want to happen, because if this case goes back before the Senate, okay, Ben could basically say, hey, listen, a lawsuit could occur, and they could say, hey, they've had plenty of time to review this case. They have not reviewed this case. So now it's going to go back to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court invalidates the male-only draft, that's a big can of worms right there, because then they would have to pass a bunch of new laws, possibly even re-amend the Constitution to push through another draft. It's crazy. It's absolutely insane. So they don't want this to go back to the Supreme Court. If they ultimately say, okay, well, we're not going to draft women, then they'll go back to the Supreme Court. Either it's draft women or get rid of the draft entirely. Those are the options that they have. And they've been kicking the can down the road and playing games with it. When they do this in Congress, for example, when the Supreme Court ruled that they needed to integrate, they need to integrate schools with different races, so blacks and whites. The Supreme Court gave them a certain amount of time. They never did it, and they kept on kicking the can down the road. And then the Supreme Court just then basically said, "Yeah, okay, well, you've given you too much time. Do it now, and that's it." And it was just instant. It was instant integration. Basically, like, yeah, you have no more time. They basically say that's it, and so they don't want that to happen. In the case of this ruling, the Supreme Court will just invalidate the male-only draft, and they will no longer have the ability to just keep on drafting men. There will have to be revisions to the entire process in of itself. And like I said, it could result in them needing to re-amend the Constitution, because it could literally require a new amendment for them to pull this off. So it's a very serious, very, very serious can of worms that they've been playing around with. And we can see that in the Senate, though. It's intriguing because despite the fact this is happening, there's a lot of chattering going on. The Democrats only hold a very small lead in the Senate. Like, I think it's like one seat, right? Senate Democrats face tough re-elections this November. Facing tough re-elections this November, are struggling to take a side on whether women should be required to register for the military draft. The controversial provision was included by Democrats in the annual defense bill known as the National Defense Authorization Act, which was recently advanced by the Senate Armed Services Committee. Several Senate Democrats who represent battleground states declined to stake out a position or said they were unaware of the proposal. They're all lying. They're completely lying. The major policy change would present possible political peril for vulnerable incumbents as Republicans seek the majority. I didn't know about that, Senator Sherrod Brown told the Washington Examiner. Senator Bob Casey said he was also unfamiliar with the provision and noted the NDAA was not finalized. All right. Senator John Tester said he'd have to take a look at it. They're all playing coy right now. I need to try to figure out what they're doing, Tester said. I've been more focused on making sure that the Navy, the Army, and Air Force and Space Command are able to recruit who they need and taking care of our veterans, so all our volunteers, and we never have to go to a draft. They're full of crap. In the Republican-controlled House, they passed a bill that would require all men. They just passed it like a week ago, that require all men between the ages of 18 through 26 to automatically be registered for the draft, because Gen Zers aren't registering anymore. Okay, guys, we're gearing up for war. Right? So when you look further into this, there's some other very interesting things occurring here. See, still, it's Democrats who hold a one-seat Senate majority. It's not a lot. And, it's interesting because check this out. The topic divides Republicans. Senator Minority Leader Mitch McConnell has previously supported including women. He was the former leader. He was the former head in the Senate. All right. He was the majority leader in the Senate previously, while Senator Roger Wicker, the top Republican on Senate Armed Services, opposes it. Here's the interesting thing about this. All right. So you have there was a vote recently, and there's a senator named Senator Rosen, and Senator Rosen supports the draft, and her congressional office confirmed she voted to advance the $923 billion NDA the committee tally of which is not made public available, right? And this was a vote of 22 to 23. The panel advanced the legislation 22 to 3 last week. This is a combination of both Democratic and Republican senators. You have to remember, again, the Democrats only have a 1 seat lead in the Senate. They only have a 1 seat lead in the Senate. So 22 to 3, that was bipartisan. That was 100% bipartisan. They all know their hands are tied right now because if they don't do something, if they don't allow women to be drafted, that it could invalidate the entire draft in and of itself because the male only draft is already unconstitutional. It was found unconstitutional by a federal court, and the Supreme Court will rule it to be unconstitutional. They said they would give Congress time to act upon it, either get rid of the draft or draft women, and they have not done it yet. It's been years. So like I said, if it goes back to the Supreme Court and the Supreme Court goes, well, we've given you years. We've given you half a decade. We've given you almost a decade to get this done. You have not been able to do that in this time. The male-only draft is unconstitutional. Boom, you're screwed. Now they have to start all over from the beginning again, and they're going to be in a situation where like there will be so much pushback over a draft, just trying to reinstitute the draft after it's been invalidated by the Senate is going to be a living nightmare. So they're between a complete rock and a hard place. They're 100% between a rock and a hard place. They can't get out of this, guys. So what's likely to happen here is they're going to combine those two bills, the House bill, which already passed, which would automatically require men between the ages of 18 and 26 to be automatically registered for the draft, along with the bill that they passed in the Senate that would require that women register for the draft. They're just going to combine those into two bills. They're going to agree upon it. They're going to send it. They're going to vote on it in the Senate, pass that bill, send it to the House, pass it in the House, and then send it to the president to be signed into law. If they strip it out, if they were to strip it out and say women don't have to serve, again, it opens up a massive can of worms, because if it goes back to the Supreme Court has already given them years. It's gone through multiple committees that have voted to draft women, and Congress has not been able to act, has refused to act, has kept kicking the can down the road. So on those grounds, what's a reasonable amount of time? 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, 10 years? Because we're pushing for 10 years. We're heading towards 10 years. So now they have a lot of pressure on them, because if the Senate invalidates the male-only draft, then they will have to basically start the entire process over, possibly even re-amend the Constitution just to bring the draft back, as we're heading into WW3. And you know that men have no dogs in this fight. Men are demoralized. Okay? If a man does not have love for family or for country, he will not fight for anything. What's the saying that men are putting out there right now? Do not fight for a country that hates you. If they try to force men to fight, this is another serious problem. You have a lot of men who are furious and angry about the things in the country. They're saying that if they send them over there, they're going to go and fight for the other side. All right? They're between a rock and a hard place. I already told you, Gen Z is not going. Gen Z is not capable. 77% of Gen Zers are already completely. 77% of Gen Zers are already disqualified by the U.S. military from serving. 77%, and that's in high school. That's 18. That's for people who haven't even graduated from high school yet. High school seniors. Okay, so by the time you get into Gen Zers who are in their 20s, you have a bunch of these people who they've definitely begun using drugs at this point. They've definitely developed substance abuse habits at this point. They definitely have serious mental health issues at this point. If they didn't have them in high school, they definitely have them by the time they're in their 20s. So it's not going to happen. These people, I've said that this is their banner. The banner for Gen Z is basically sleeping and farting. If If the sergeant comes and tries to knocks on the door and says, you're here to serve, we need you to come and serve your country, they're not going to the door. They'll be in their parents' basement sleeping and farting. Sleeping and farting after a long night of drinking, smoking pot, sniffing Fenty, and playing Call of Duty. All right, they'll be knocked out, and of course smoking weed. So they'll be knocked out until probably 6 p.m. They'll be knocked out until probably 6 p.m. So they're not getting up. And a lot of they're coming for the millennials and Gen Xers. Let's be realistic. They're coming for millennials and Gen Xers because a lot of this is a formality too. Women are gonna when they pass this thing, if they pass this thing, when they pass this thing, and women are automatically required, automatically signed up for the draft, and they will be going. They will be going. It's going to be very, very interesting because a lot of them will just say they are just going to get pregnant. Now, something interesting, another thing to make about the draft is the draft right now could actually occur even outside of just going to war. The reason why is we don't have enough people serving in the military. We don't have enough people serving in the military. So they can begin just drafting people to the military to make up the numbers right now. Because we don't have enough people to protect the country anymore. They're like, we have the best technology in the world and we're perfectly fine. We have drones that will fight for us. Guys, this is stupidity talking. This is complete stupidity talking. Oh, we'll have artificial intelligence and drones that are going to do all of this for us. Do you know how much it costs to build a single drone? How stupid are people? These things cost, like, these drones are costing like $1 million a pop. Military drones, $1 million a pop. And then a drone operator, like, you have to be trained to be a drone operator. They don't just operate themselves. Oh, AI will do it. Stupid people. AI, generative AI is not a person. It just observes patterns. It's very dangerous. It's extremely dangerous to do something like this. You can end up with situations like friendly fire if you think you're just going to use drones powered by AI to fight all the wars. Massive level of stupidity. Massive level of stupidity. Guys, you can definitely go check out Greedy Soldier's video. Like I said, we were going to jump into it, but we talked about so much of it that you can go and check out his video separately. I'm linking in the description of the video so you can go and check it out and listen and get some of the, and hear some more of the additional details about what's happening. But this is the situation around us. By the way, if you're enjoying the content on this channel and you want even more of this content, you can head over to the Men Walking Away channel. There's a link to a description video. Go check it out. Subscribe to the channel. Support the content. What do you guys think regarding all of this? The U.S. military draft in 2025 will include women. Let me know your thoughts, and we'll talk about it in the comments. Like the video if you like it. Don't forget to subscribe, and if you like the video, share the video. And just remember that all roads lead to MWA, Men Walking Away, and cheers.